Imagine being at 35,000 feet. The cabin is quiet, the passengers are asleep, and the stars are your only company. Suddenly, the world on the ground loses you. No mayday call, no emergency signal, just an empty radar screen. For a decade, the disappearance of Flight MH370 has been the black hole of aviation history. But was it the only one? Today, we dive into the chilling truth of the planes that never came home. It was March 8, 2014. At 12:41 a.m., Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, a massive Boeing 777, took off into the humid night from Kuala Lumpur. Everything seemed perfectly routine at 1:19 a.m. As the plane approached Vietnamese airspace, the captain's voice crackled over the radio with the final words ever heard from the flight. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Seconds later, the transponder, the device that tells air traffic control where the plane is, was manually switched off. The plane became a ghost. Instead of continuing on its path, it made a sharp, calculated turn back, crossing over the Malaysian peninsula. Then, it headed straight for the vast, freezing void of the southern Indian Ocean. Military radar tracked it for hours as it flew in total electronic silence, a phantom in the sky, yet no one intervened. How did a plane full of people vanish in an age of global surveillance? To understand MH370, we must look at the terrifying precedent of other ghost flights. Before you dismiss MH370 as a simple mechanical error, remember the tragedy of Helios Airways Flight 522 back in 2005. That plane flew over Greece for hours on autopilot while everyone on board, passengers and crew, was unconscious. A slow loss of cabin pressure, a condition called hypoxia, had silently turned the aircraft into a flying tomb. By the time fighter jets scrambled to intercept it, the pilots saw a horrifying sight. The captain's seat was empty, and the co-pilot was slumped over the controls, unresponsive. The plane eventually ran out of fuel and crashed. So, is it possible MH370 became a ghost flight too? Did a sudden decompression event leave all 239 people drifting into a permanent sleep while the sophisticated Boeing 777 continued its phantom journey? Why into the unknown? This theory is compelling. The 777 is designed to be incredibly stable and can fly for hours on its pre-programmed route, even without human input. If a catastrophic event happened, like an explosion or a fire that knocked out the communication systems and the crew, the autopilot might have simply kept flying until the fuel tanks ran dry. But then there's the other side of the coin. What if the cockpit was compromised from within? What if someone deliberately turned off the communication systems? Someone who knew exactly how to make a modern airliner invisible to civilian radar. The silence of MH370 isn't just a mystery, it's a haunting reminder of how fragile our connection to the world truly is, especially when you're 7 miles up in the air. For years, the ocean gave up nothing. The initial search was one of the largest and most expensive in history, covering millions of square miles of ocean. But the sea held its secrets tight. Then fragments began to appear. Pieces of the plane started washing up on the shores of Africa and islands in the Indian Ocean. Thousands of miles from the search area, a flapron here, a wing fragment there. Experts analyzed the jagged metal and even the barnacles that had attached themselves to the debris to trace the water currents backwards in time. Their conclusion was chilling. The condition of the wreckage suggested the plane wasn't configured for a controlled water landing. It didn't glide gently onto the surface. The evidence pointed to a high-speed, vertical dive, a final, violent plunge into the abyss at hundreds of miles per hour. This horrifying possibility led investigators to a very dark place, the home of Captain Zahir Ahmad Shah. In a discovery that sent shockwaves through the investigation, The FBI managed to reconstruct deleted data from his personal, home-built flight simulator. On that simulator, they found a flight path, a path that eerily mirrored the plane's suspected final journey, leading directly into the remote southern Indian Ocean, a journey to nowhere, seemingly practiced weeks before the actual disappearance. So what does this mean? Was this a dedicated, hero pilot desperately trying to simulate potential emergency scenarios to save his plane, or was this something far more sinister? Was it a man with a dark, final plan, meticulously plotting to execute the perfect disappearance? The aviation community is deeply divided. Many pilots defend Captain Zahari, arguing that any professional would practice emergency routes. Others believe the evidence points to a deliberate act. We may never know the truth. We often think we have mapped the entire world, but the bottom of our own oceans remains more mysterious than the surface of the moon. There are parts of the Indian Ocean so deep and rugged, with underwater mountains and canyons, that a Boeing 777 could be crushed or hidden under mountains of silt forever. This isn't the first time the sky has swallowed its own. Think back to 1937, when the legendary aviator Amelia Earhart vanished over the Pacific during her attempt to circumnavigate the globe, despite decades of searching and millions of dollars spent. Her plane remains lost to the deep. Could MH370 be the modern Amelia Earhart mystery? The sheer vastness of the sea is a perfect hiding place for secrets. Even with our most advanced modern satellites and deep-sea sonars, we are searching for a needle in a haystack the size of a continent. The ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily, and for MH370, it seems to be holding on tighter than ever. As we close this dark file, the families of the 239 souls on board still wait. They wait for an answer that may never come. Every year on March 8, they light candles for their loved ones who are neither living nor confirmed deceased, but simply missing. They are trapped in a state of limbo, unable to mourn, unable to move on. The authorities tell us that the sky is safe, and statistically, it is. Flying remains one of the safest forms of travel. But as long as MH370 remains a mystery, as long as a giant passenger jet can simply disappear without a trace, the sky holds a secret that haunts every takeoff and landing, a shadow that flickers in the back of our minds. What do you believe happened in those final, silent hours? Was it a tragic accident, a ghost flight caused by hypoxia, or a deliberate act by someone on board? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you want to explore more unsolved enigmas of history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. The archive is always open.